the little whoops in the whole wide world. Yeah, I'm the one that wants to be flown by everyone, cause I'm the beginning of the revolution. The FPV micro society. It doesn't matter where, just the fact that we can all fly and be free. So let's go fly and be free. Yeah. Never gonna stop flying with tiny whoop. No, no one's ever gonna make me stop. No, 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 it's too much fun. Get out of my way, or I'ma use you as a gate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Never gonna stop flying with tiny whoop. No, no one's ever gonna make me stop. No, 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 it's too much fun. Get out of my way, or I'ma use you as a gate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Never gonna stop flying with tiny whoop. No, no one's ever gonna make me stop. No, 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 it's too much fun. Get out of my way, or I'ma use you as a gate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo. Never gonna stop flying with tiny whoop. No, no one's ever gonna make me stop. No, 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 it's too much fun. Get out of my way, or I'ma use you as a gate. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo. Never gonna stop flying with tiny whoop. No, no one's ever gonna make me stop. No, 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 it's too much fun.
4 more minutes until it's 1 p.m. in Australia. That's time for one more Tiny Whoop song. What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Micromotor Workshop Live. It's been a while. It's been since summer that is around Christmas in Australia, since I've done the last live stream in the old place. And the old problems are hunting me. Out of some of my computers, I'm talking to myself. This one here. Let's mute this guy here. So it's been a lot happening in the meantime in Whoop land. Products being released by companies left, right, and center. And even the Tiny Whoop music has been released. I, for some reason, always had kind of the allowance to play the music in my videos, but most of you guys didn't get to it. But now, finally, I think yesterday, I got the message that Ben Shepherd's finally released his Tiny Whoop music on tinywhoop.com. So I just went there, even though I had, I think, all of the songs this morning, and gave him $10 for a fresh copy of handmade and mouth-made Tiny Whoop beats, what you've just heard in the beginning of the stream. Yeah, so for those of you who don't remember this old game, if you're watching this live, you're welcome to join the the chat room, which I have posted a link to in the video description, where a couple of my old buddies have already taken place. Hello, Pilsner Popper. Yo, Slappy, how are things? And knowledge is ready as already. And I've also seen a couple of folks in the YouTube chat, which, unless you really have to use it, please come over to the Discord chat. The YouTube chat has a lot less features. For example, you can't post pictures, videos, links, and all the other goodies. You can post a few emoticons by the looks of it. And I don't have that on this computer here, so I can't show it to you directly. But I'm looking at the YouTube chat room as well. Sometimes I see Tyson Scott in here. Tyson is hoping to visit one day. I recommend to come to Australia in late February towards March, April. That's the best time. It's not that hot anymore, and the tourists mostly have disappeared. Although this year they hung around quite some time. On the other hand, if you prefer quiet beaches, this is the time. You know, go to any of the beaches down here and they're almost deserted because it's freezing. It's like 17 degrees Celsius outside. And inside here as well, because I don't have any heater. Well, I have a little personal space heater down here, but apart from that, it's cold. It's like, in the mornings, it's like 14, 15 degrees in here. Ira is in the YouTube chat as well. Welcome, my friend. Haven't seen you for a while, but I'm still enjoying your receivers big time. If you want to check out the fpvr.org YouTube channel, I've created an awesome video on the Australian Aussie Open last weekend that worked out really well, and your receivers have been part of the success. Thanks a lot, my friend, and for everyone else who is looking for some awesome 5.8 gigahertz FPV receivers, go to iftrontech.com, if I remember that website correctly. Yeah, Pilsner Popper says in the YouTube chat, check out the video description for the links to the official chat, which is the Discord chat, which is first it's persistent, so you can still keep chatting even if the live stream has ended, and you can post all sorts of stuff in there. Sean says in the chat, I'm so glad they released it finally. I assume you refer to the Tiny Whoop music. I'm gonna play some more at the end of that. But if you want to have your own copy, go there. You can also pre-play, listen to most of the songs for I think 30 seconds. Apart from that, it's $10 to get your own. I don't know if that includes the right to play them on my live stream. So Ben, if you have any issues with me giving you plugs on the live stream, please let me know. By the way, Ben, if you're listening to this, I'm still waiting for the first didgeridoo Tiny Whoop song. How about that? So back to the chat. Thanks, Ira. You have appeared in the Discord chat as well. Knowledge says he's using the Arcgroup version 2 DSMX and DXE E011 frame 7x16mm motors with 250 milliamp with 2.0 PW, which is the power plug, for weeks. I love it and will never fly another whoop. Ira says, where can I find it? You mean you mean the receivers? If you are looking for the music, you should go to. Damn, I pressed the wrong button. Go to tinywhoop.com/pages/music. Oops, I see my logo is right in front of it. So, whoop, logo go away for a sec. tinywhoop.com/pages/music. I put that in here. Sorry, you mean the videos. Go to YouTube fpvr.org. Boom. "2017 Aussie Open with Joe Scully." So that's what I did last weekend. Was an awesome day of racing and geeking out with our fellow propeller heads. So yeah, if you want to see that, check it out later. Now I'm going to talk about 7mm whoops. As Knowledge just said in the chat, this is one of the best whooping experiences most of us who have tested that setup had yet. So I got so many questions about this. I thought I'm going to use that for my first back to live stream today and talk a little bit about what do you want to use 7mm motors for your whoops. I've built lots of them. This is like a small selection of those that still work. And over here on the second camera is show you. I should make smooth transitions like this and put the logo back on. Here are the 3 so far that I built 7mm whoops. So these 2 here in the front, they are the E011. I think they cost around 16 bucks on Banggood. That's the complete quad, which in these 2 cases only the frame is still left. They come with a little hut over there with some Lego studs on there, and they even come with a little Lego minifig. So these, the quadcopters, including the minifig, are costing as much as some Lego figures that I buy online, and they're not even bad quality, these figures. You have to assemble them themselves, you have to put in the arms yourself, but apart from that, it's a pretty decent quality minifig. Also, the quads themselves were actually pretty good, but the issue is they come with this small peanut controller, and you cannot link any other controller to the flight control boards. So that's why I've taken the boards out, replaced them with B-brains, and of course put a camera on top, and then also used a little piece of battery foam to run our typical stick style whoop batteries, because the stock batteries here are a little wider and a little shorter. So I didn't want to get a new collection of batteries. So I've just used that foam that we use on the E010 frames in order to put larger batteries in. And in this case here, this is a 255 milliamp battery, which works okay, but I prefer to fly it with 205 milliamp or the 205 milliamp high voltage packs. Because even though the whole quad gets a little heavier by adding 7mm motors, and also the frame is a little heavier than the standard Whoop frames. The efficiency of these motors is so much better that it's no problem to run them with these small batteries, and they have some pretty decent flight time, longer actually than if you would use the same battery on the smaller 6mm motors, especially the hottest ones. You get comparable flight times out of these 7mm motors to like medium speed, for example, the stock Inductrix motors. Now, to sort of bridge the gap between recorded videos that I post on YouTube after I've edited them and a live video that only a few people can see live because, well, not all of you are sitting in front of their devices right now. I've decided to split up these videos in two parts. The first video, which I hope most of you have seen, was just asking for questions from you guys. So I've linked that in the stream description if you want to check it out, but at this point it probably doesn't make much sense anymore because you're here anyway. But I've asked you for questions and I got quite a few. I will go through them and answer most of them as good as I can. If you have any suggestions, any ideas, any answers yourself, you're welcome to post them in the Discord chat or in the YouTube chat, or if you're watching this video afterwards, just post them in the comments below. I will try to keep this stream as short as an hour, but even an hour can be a lot to go through. So if you post any comment to a specific section in the stream, it would be nice if you include a time mark. Whenever you comment on YouTube, in case you didn't know that, whenever you type a number that looks like number, colon, and 2 digits, like 1:30, that'll automatically create a link to 1:30 30. So if you see me talking here at 12 minutes 30, then you can just put 12:30 in and reference to that specific spot. If anyone clicks on that link in your comment, he gets to that exact part of the video. So let's get started. I do have here somewhere on the laptop the comments of the last video. Let me switch over to that. Camera 2 is the laptop. So the 7mm Whoop Q&A part 1 questions yielded 23 comments. I think that's a good number to, well, half of them are mine, to get some nice knowledge together for you guys who are wanting to follow us on the 7mm Whoop trails. Let's start from the bottom and answer Sean's question about batteries. Sean says, I have a heavier camera and was thinking about going with a 7mm build. Question, if I'm not able to charge HV packs, should I not get HV batteries? Does it hurt a HV battery not to be charged up to HV level? Well, at first, for those of you who don't know, HV means high voltage, and that typically refers to a lithium polymer cell, which has slightly more voltage than our regular cells, which is typically 4.2 volts. I see the sun coming up. Let me change those blinds a little bit to not mess up the camera too much. So Regular LiPos have 4.2 volts, and most of our electronics only works up to 5 volts. So that's why using 2 cells is usually not an option, but it's well possible to produce LiPo cells with just a little more voltage. So um, my LiPo makes a few great ones, but other companies start to making them as well. At my LiPo, they usually have a yellow cap, whilst the regular voltage cells have a red cap. And instead of 4.2 volts, you can charge up these packs to 4.35 volts safely. Well, I mean, you could, and some of us did charge these regular packs to a higher voltage just to get a little bit more punch out of them. But these ones, actually can charge to 4.35 volts without them taking damage. And now the question is, what happens if you only charge these batteries to 4.2 volts? And the quick answer is no problem. That might actually probably be a very good way to extend the lifetime of the batteries, because as most of us have experienced, these batteries don't last forever. A couple of cycles, depending on how hard you ride them, somewhere between estimations go from 50 cycles to 500 cycles a regular LiPo cell should last. But yeah, the harder you drive them, the shorter that is, and charging them up is definitely riding them harder than them just sitting there at storage voltage. So you can imagine these batteries like a spring. If it's sitting at storage voltage or even lower, at somewhere 3.2, 3.5 volts, it's a relaxed spring. But if you charge it up, you punch energy into it, you are pushing the spring together and storing the energy in there. The battery doesn't like that. It wants to expand. It wants to get rid of the energy again. Everything in here is under tension. So the longer the battery sits at a high voltage, the more damage the dielectricum, the layer which separates the charge, will take. So it's best not to store your batteries charged. And in that regards, I think it's actually a good thing not to charge up these high voltage cells to 4.35 volts, but only to 4.2 volts. That's being nice to them. And I'm sure it will not do them any damage. You're giving away a little bit of capacity because you're not using the full compression of the spring, so to speak. But no, Sean, it's not a problem. You can perfectly charge these batteries to only 4.2 volts, and they will still perform really well. I'm doing that all the time by using my high-tech X4 chargers. Maybe you see a couple of the larger stick packs sticking in there, and yeah, I frequently just charge them to 4.2 volts because it's more convenient. I have a couple of chargers that only do 4.2 volts, so it's a perfectly good practice to only charge them up to 4.2 volts. Let me see if any question in the meantime came from the chat room. So let's quickly catch up here. Not fast enough. Welcome back, my friend. Do you have a NRF module in one of your transmitters? To be honest, I don't even know what an NRF module is, so I assume not. Let me know what it is. Maybe I have one and just don't know. Stock flight controller will link on Bayang. So no, I don't. So you're talking about something that links up with silverware for these flashed flight controllers. No, I've never flashed one with silverware, and I don't have any of these modules. I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole, to be honest. I know quite a few of you guys enjoying it. Knowledge says, have you seen people using just a 13mm wire to the FPV antenna camera and nothing to the ground? to the FPV antenna camera and nothing to the ground for a Super Rambo build. I don't understand. You want to have a wire to the FPV antenna camera and nothing to the ground. I don't understand, to be honest. Not fast enough, sis. I've seen it done, but it depends on your camera. Okay, well, you guys at least understand each other. That's good. Camera does not like losing the ground plane nor the antenna. No, I always ground everything. Clyde Payne. Fellas, welcome back, my friend. Pilsner Popper's asking what I think of the frame. Seems real flimsy compared to the E010 or F36. Yeah, that's half my opinion, I'd say. So the frames are relatively flexible. So it's very similar actually to the F36 frames, which is not this one here. I think I have one somewhere. No, not here. I'll have to find one somewhere. One sec, should be some. I've replaced them all with E010. Now here's one. So this is the F36 frame, which looks very much like the black E011 frame. It has the same slightly angled struts. The underside looks very similar. So yeah, they also feel similar. So I think the quality of the E011 frames is very similar to the F36 frames, which in turn is very similar to the E010S frames. Here's one in its original shape as E010S. Yeah, that's all pretty much the same soup. The only difference is these here have motor mounts for 7x16mm motors. Apart from that, this is all the same like my regular Whoop builds. Frame and motors are different. That's it. So, woohoo, says Clyde. Let's let's go back to questions. Next question from the bottom up. 20 asked 23 hours ago. All my USB chargers charge my cheap LiPos up to 4.25 volts. Does it harm the LiPo? And as I said in the comment below there, yes, that is not a good idea. You know, you're crunching that spring a little more than it should, and for a little bit that gives a little bit more performance. But if you do this more often, the LiPo will get damaged by charging it higher than its maximum stated voltage. Important here, the longer you keep it at that higher voltage, the more damage you will do to the battery. Even if you charge it to 4.2 volts and let it sit there for a couple of weeks, it will take a toll. So if you charge it up to 4.25 volts and then let it sitting there for a while, it'll take even more damage. If you only have it very briefly at 4.25 volts, yeah, it probably won't matter. that much, but I still don't recommend doing it. And that's yeah, I've seen a couple of and heard about a few more accidents with little LiPo chargers, little LiPo USB chargers. I don't trust any device that doesn't have a display. I want to see the voltage that my cells are at. And even if it has a display, I don't trust the display. I take my multimeter and check the voltage of my chargers frequently. I also sometimes just use different chargers to cross-check each other. I take one battery of this charger and plug it in the next and see if it has a safe voltage because yeah, these little packs contain a lot of energy if they are fully charged. So if they're discharged and add storage charge, even if you harm them physically, there's not much puffing and spark spewing going on. But if you have them charged fully and then something happens to them, um, then yeah, they can create quite a big plume of smoke and might even be enough to ignite other stuff around that. So when you have to use those USB chargers, I recommend to never leave them charging unattended. Even all my other chargers, which I trust a lot more than little USB chargers, I don't like to have them charging when I'm not here. And I also have two smoke detectors up here, which use some radioactive stuff that go off if there's just a little bit of smoke in here. So quick answer, don't charge them over 4.2 volts. That is regular LiPos meant to be charged at 4.2 volt maximum. I'm sorry, I think that's not in focus. I'm using fixed lens cameras, and this one is focused somewhere around here, and the other one up here on the table is focused right like 10, 12 centimeters off the lens. So, next question. Chris Butt, hey buddy, is asking what kind of flight times do you get on flying the standard 205s? And I haven't done that much, but I didn't expect too much of a difference, so I charged up a few yesterday. Mainly I'm just flying the high voltage packs at the moment, just because I got so excited about the extra performance we got out of the 7x16. So I was giving it all and running it with mainly the 205s and 255s high voltage packs. The 205 high voltage is definitely my favorite on that setup, but I also ran a few regular 205 milliamp packs through it, and you're getting roughly the same the same flight time like out of the 205 HVs, just a little bit less oomph at the beginning of the pack, but I'm getting around a maximum of 3 minutes 30 flight time when I'm taking it easy and really flying it until it doesn't want to lift anymore. Then the battery sits just at or even below 3 volts. A safe flight time on a A011 with 7 by 16 millimeter motors with 17,000 kV, you get around solid 3 minutes out of one of these packs. And if you're using the stock E011 motors, you will get at least a minute more. So as some of you might have seen, I've been using the E011 stock motors with the 255 milliamp high voltage pack charged up to the brim, and you get just over 5 minutes of flight time out of it when you're taking it easy. So yeah, I think that's a quite significant improvement over the quite inefficient fast 6mm motors. But it's not so much the flight time that I'm excited about, but more the performance. And also, yeah, if you're looking at the motor after a run, a hot 6mm motor will be hot after running it 2 minutes through a whoop, whilst a 7 by 16 millimeter motor, it doesn't even seem to care. It's coming down cool as. So, quick look into the chat room. Ken is back. Thanks for joining us again. Glad you're liking my new setup. I'm still getting used to it, but I'm liking it a lot too. Knowledge thinks that the softer frame makes it bounce off stuff better. Yeah, that's right. So that's the main difference between the E010S frame and the E010 frame, that one is a lot stiffer. So the E011 frames are pretty much as soft as the E010S and the F36 frames, whilst the E010 frame is a lot stiffer, which, yes, sometimes means it breaks a little easier. But what I really like about these stiffer frames is they tend to be in shape a lot better than these softer frames. If you have a new frame of those, what I recommend to do before you fly it is to put it flat on the table like that, and just see when you press on the rims of the hoops, do the others lift off of the table much? Is it straight? I got so many of these frames completely crumbled up. I order quite a few of them. Like not too many because I got so burned so often. So I order like 20 to 50 at a time, and usually they ship them in just like a garbage bag. And especially in summer here when they come, or well, even in winter, the sun is hot. They're sitting in the delivery truck chucked somewhere with all these other garbage bags, and they all get bent up. I specifically always ask to ship them in a box. And they recently actually started doing it after ignoring me for quite some time and just shipping it again in a garbage bag. I'm now getting them in the box, so even the softer ones are sometimes a little straighter, but not sure if you can see this one, but this one is already bent up as well. So the yield on these is really quite low. Can you see that? How not, oh, this one here, this motor mount, oh, here, it's just not straight. And it'll still fly, but has some ill tendencies. You give it roll and yaws a little bit and things like that. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I prefer the E010 frames. They're like a little harder plastic, which doesn't bend as quickly when it's heated up. But yes, it cracks a little quicker. So back to the chat. Yeah, buddy. Pilsner Popper doesn't have a whole lot of packs through it yet. But yeah, these soft frames, they will bend up, but they will very rarely crack. Yes, faster motors and 2.0 plugs. That is the main ingredients most of these quads need. Yep, 2.0 plug conversion is one of the cheapest, best things we have come up with over the years. I'm surprised that Horizon Hobby didn't get the message yet. I released that Inductrix Pro, they call it, with the small rubbish plug again. Oh yes, the setup does look sweet, and I'm planning to show you a little more in the future as well. It's some pretty amazing environments around here. You might be able to see it over there and over here. It's all bush around here, and we are like 10 meters above the ground, like in the middle of the trees, and there's some 100 years old trees around us, and the never touched jungle because the bulldozers just got stuck in the crazy jungle over there, is as natural as it could be with all sorts of crazy animals in here. So, um, knowledge says, what about a carbon brace that could fit that 7 mm motor? I'd buy one. Which reminds me, I think I ordered some at My Lipo. Hey Boris, if you see that video, these carbon braces did not arrive, and I strongly suggest to make some with 7 mm motors, 4 7 mm motors. I'm pretty sure people will buy those. I personally have never used one of these carbon braces, but I've heard many people are very happy with this because it will fix exactly what I just showed you before, all these crooked frames, by putting a solid carbon brace underneath, which keeps the motors itself, not even the mounts, but which kind of locks onto the motors themselves. That'll keep it perfectly in shape. Yeah, I think the lighter frames with the carbon brace is probably a really good idea, even though you almost come to the same weight like if you use one of these stiffer E010 frames. But yeah, they're not available in 7 mm. So yeah, a carbon brace might be a good idea. They won't have any problems with another extra gram floating around. But yeah, they are pretty flimsy, that's right. I crashed a lot though, nothing happened. So the soft plastic also has the advantage of taking abuse. Yeah, boiling them in water. So yeah, that's I haven't tried that myself, but yeah, of course you can burn yourself with boiling water too. Yeah, chucking plastic into boiling water straightens things out like magic, says the chat room. I'm gonna check that out. Fleming Malister, welcome back, my friend. Is there a lead on replacement frames for the E011? I'm ready for new motors and a new frame. Um, yeah, I ordered a few, and I'm also going to share a few. I ordered more than I need for myself. Um, but yeah, I'm always careful with ordering lots of stuff from Banggood. Might bite you in the bum. So yeah, but I recommend everyone just go there, and shipping is free. I usually select the second shipping option, not free, but somewhere between $3 and $6. It's usually makes it a lot quicker to arrive. According to their website, takes 6 to 9 days from China to Australia, and many times it's true. I order stuff on the weekend and it arrives on Friday. Amazing. Fleming Mellister says, oh, I already read that. Crazy idea, says Knowledge. What about the 2.0 PW, which is the power whoop connector, as Tiny Whoop calls it, for the motors on the FC? Would that do anything? Um, I don't think that'll make much of a difference. We actually do that for a long time. For the longest time, actually. I think the first motors with plugs are made actually had the JST PH 2.0 plugs, as some of us like to call them on there. The Latrax Alias motors have these plugs on there because, well, that's just what the Latrax Alias used as motor plugs. And I've done a couple of tests comparing the motor performance on different plugs. I don't see a difference. If you only run 1 to 3 amps through them, it doesn't make much of a difference in terms of performance. And if you're not constantly plugging them in and out, then you also won't damage them that quickly. So I converted a few of my flag controllers to actually have 2.0 millimeter plugs on the FC for the motors. just so that I can use these alias motors for my custom builds as well, because as opposed to the usual 80 millimeter wires on all the direct drive motors we make, the alias motors have 12 centimeters, 120 millimeter wires. And so on some of the builds, like this one here, I have put some 2.0 millimeter plugs in there, so I can use the larger motor plugs. But yeah, no advantage. I wish those quads would have the smaller plugs as well, so we could streamline production a little bit. But yeah, that's how it is. Ken wants to have my desk for my home office. So much room. Yeah, it's great. It's so much better than the other cramped room I had before, which was a repurposed garage. So I do have my own entertainment deck out there where I can sit and fly and watch the birds. I have all this space around here, and the desk actually continues over there, which you can not see from this camera, or just you can see the edge and another chair there, which is my actually tinker station with all the equipment, soldering stations, power supplies, screwdrivers, and all that fun stuff. And yeah, it's a lot more space. And then over there, that's my warehouse. Used to be a bedroom. You know, there's always like a basically like a two-bedroom flat underneath our house. So this here is ex-bedroom, which I converted to my storage room. All the goods we ship are in there, and over there, oh, damn, that's difficult. I can go this way and point this way, is the um, office. All the paperwork and stuff, and taxes, and documents, all the fun stuff is in there, so I can close the door. Yeah, but very happy with the setup here. And as I said, I'm planning to show you a little bit more in the future. All this is hooked up to my video station, which is underneath there. And as you might see, it also, the current live signal also streams live here on that TV. And I have another monitor right behind the camera, so I can kind of see what's happening, even if I'm not facing directly the camera. So this also is hooked up to a FPV receiver, so I could even fly live, and plan to do that in the future as well, because there's lots of space to fly down there. So I have a couple of tiny whoop races or something going on, because anything much larger, you spend more time walking and climbing to get your stuff back than you actually spend flying. I've tested that a lot. That's why I've become even more a fan of the whoop. Even put a whoop picture on my wall up here. Since living here, because you're flying around in this place with the whoop, it's the best fun you can have with your pants on. Bruce Dad. Oh no, it's not Bruce. It's Bruce Dad says. Oh, sorry, did I not switch over? I'm on the wrong window here. Boom. Bruce Dad. Bruce Dad 13 says, Alien. Welcome, my friend. Can we have an option for motors with no plugs for crimping our own? I like really short wires. You know, Bruce or Dad, I suggest just snip them off. Yes, we had motors for quite some time with no plugs, but then I finally found a supplier that supplies end caps with wires and plugs on there, which was not so easy. It took me a year or so to track these people down. But no, if you want to if you want to crimp your own, which is quite difficult, even if you have small crimping tools, then snip, take the insulation off, and crimp your own. it's also not making it much cheaper if we make them without plugs. It's just a matter of scale. It would actually be more expensive for me now to do additional runs um, without the plugs on there. We produce the end caps with the wires and the plugs as one unit, and then it later on gets connected to crimp together with the motor. It's actually a crimping process as well. If you look at the end of the motors, there's like little tabs which are cut and pressed out of the end cap, out of the end of the can into the end cap. So we produce those caps and plugs in a large run, and then we make motors of them as we need them. So no, I won't make any without plugs. I think I have a few left which we use on some 8mm motors to make motors for planes, but I think we will also switch over to make them all with plugs in the future, even though most people won't use the plugs, just snip and solder. So if you don't have a problem with soldering, it's always better to solder direct. Makes a better connection, less resistance, less room for error than a plug. I've seen a few nightmare stories. Yeah, I read those as well. On the 7mm frames from Banggood on the Micromotor community, yes, they have delivered them 6mm frames and bent up and stuff as usual. I guess I'll just purchase a full E011 BNF. It's like, yeah, I think I paid $20, $16 for mine. But yeah, the price fluctuates a little bit. Yeah, the motors are good as well, and new frames, $16 or $20, and you even get a little minifig. Bruce Dad says your son wants a punching bag after seeing your last videos. Did I punch the bag? But yeah, right behind there hangs a punching bag out on my deck. It's a very good tool. I can recommend. Not just boxing and going crazy, but you can do all sorts of exercises and let out your aggressions without harming anyone or even yourself. So yes, punching bag, big thumbs up. Um, Grams add up to big weight. Yes, of course, it makes sense to keep the weight down on a whoop. On the other hand, a little bit of weight is not wrong as well. Too light and you don't have downforce. Good flight authority also means downforce. We need some weight. I think weight is quite important. I've always built my whoops a little heavier. Not necessarily at this stage because I wanted to make them heavier, but because I didn't want them to break all the time. And during that, I actually noticed if you have the motor power to support it, some weight actually adds to the general smoothness and speed of your dives, um, fullness of banks, etc. That's the right word. It's just not fluttering that much. It gives it more authority in general. Bruce Dad says, what about interchangeable end caps? Nah, you can't do that. It's the brushes and the commutation, which is wearing out on these little motors, and yes, the brushes are part of the end cap, but no, you cannot replace it. At first, you would need to find some way to crimp that, and the crimping pressure is very important on these motors. We have dialed back and forth with the crimping pressure to achieve the right balance between performance and integrity. So if you don't crimp hard enough, then pushing on the shaft will dislocate the end cap, or just pressing on the side of the motor can, and crimping it too hard will deform the end cap and impact performance. So there's no way, and I tried to crimp those by hand with hand tools. And also the brushes press on the side of the commutation. If you pull out the end cap, the brushes will bend, and then they will relax, sit in the middle, and if you push them back on, they just get squished to the end cap. So in the factory, they use a special tool where this end cap gets clamped in. Then two little things come from the side and pull the springs apart. Then um, the end cap gets pushed onto the housing gets pushed onto the end cap, and then a little press crimps those tabs at the side in. So no, I don't think there is um, any way to make these motors serviceable in any way. Once they're broken, and many of us tried to fix them with other parts because we have broken motors lying around with different things being broken. I have never seen a motor that has been hand assembled again by someone with a long nose and it worked afterwards. So I have reached the end of the chat room almost. No more things have been posted. I'm running a QX7 with Racer Star upgraded motors, stock batteries. Bruce Dad likes the red. Bruce Dad red props on. This is the Ruggy Shark. No, not Shark, just the Ruggy frame. It's awesome. I ordered a few of them as well. They come from the UK, I think. Probably the most expensive whoop frame I ever bought. But yeah, looking forward to get those. They are said to be made out of, what is it, HDPE or something? A really tough material. I'm really looking forward to that. And it looks pretty cool, I gotta say. Colored cans on these motors. Yes, we might do this. This is just a matter of scale as well. You know, if we make thousands, 10,000s of them, then making them in color actually doesn't change the price much at all. But the minimum order quantities on the housings are quite big, whilst standard housings are usually just available, so I can buy as little as I want to. But yeah, if I want to make red housings, business gotta boom. So yeah, if we sell a lot of 7 by 16 millimeter motors, we can do this eventually. So, that was one of the things that came over the whoop craze. We made so many motors that it was possible to tell the suppliers to do extra fancy things for us, like not only making them super fast, but also making them a little nicer looking. Color is good, not only to look good, but also it's good for everyone involved in handling and shipping these motors to not ship the wrong thing. Also for you guys, if you have a bunch of motors at home, I so often got asked the question, shoot, I mixed up my motors, which is that and which is that? And unless you do some spectrum analysis or some performance tests, it's quite difficult to figure this out because they all look exactly the same from the outside. Reg E-frame and MMW Reds. Love it. Thanks for the detailed explanation of the assembly. I'm happy to go on and on that. I'm obsessed with making little motors for the last couple of years. So let's go back to YouTuber, see if we can find some more questions in here. So Chris, I answered that. You get solid 3 minutes out of that combo. More if you use HV packs, even more if you use 255 packs, and even more if you use regular standard stock E011 motors. So Jacob is asking what works better on the standard tiny wood props 7x16 or 720, and I quickly said you can't put the standard whoop props on 7x20 millimeter motors because one of them has 1 millimeter shaft and the props are only made for 0.8 millimeter shafts. In theory, you can make one or the other with the other shaft. But yes, I think, Jacob, you're right. It's just the right match. The The 7 or the 6 mm motors, you got to drive pretty hard to get the performance that we want to carry 25, 27, 30 gram of all up weight at a decent performance through the air. And 7 by 20 mm motors, they already need that much energy that to move around in the first place, that you would need a larger battery and ideally also a larger prop to work well. So this here is a tiny 7 King Kong frame, which is running 7 by 20 mm motors, but also slightly larger, or actually quite a bit larger, because not only the diameter, but the volume of the disc of the prop, which is, yeah, quite significantly larger. Let's look this up in close up. This is the comparison between the E011, which is the same size like your regular whoop, and this is the tiny 7, which is running larger motors. Oh, I'm sorry, this is actually not a 7mm whoop. So these here are both 7mm motors, 7 by 16, 7 by 20mm motors, which is quite a difference in weight and in performance. So this motor needs a lot bigger prop to actually come to peak performance, while this one here can live with a much smaller prop. So yes, I think for that size prop, for that frame, for that payload, 7 by 16 seems to be the sweet spot. But you know, we can make all sorts of theories about this. What actually counts is to make it fly, and to make it fly, you need all the parts together. Otherwise, you're just guessing. So um, I was always thinking that 7 by 16 is actually a quite interesting motor size. You know, historically, I was flying 7 by 16 mm motors somewhere back in early 2013, because that was what came with my very first quad, the Hobby King Pocket Quad. 7 by 16 mm motors from Hobby King, and they were just so terrible garbage that sparked this whole thing what we are have come to now. So I actually wanted to make 7 by 16 mm motors, but the lack of props made me do a little shift in strategy and produce 7 by 20 mm motors, so we could use the same motor mounts, but the variety of props that at that stage was available, which was in the first place Hubsan and Ladybird props. They worked well, but they had a 1 mm shaft and we only had 0.8 mm motors. So joining that was quite successful, and I didn't look back at 7 by 16 mm motors for a long time. But then I've seen this E011 coming around the corner, and had a couple of old samples that I tried in there, which yielded a little bit better performance than the E011 motors. So yeah, we had a quick chat in the factory to produce a new batch of 7 by 16, made a whole bunch of samples, and these ones in here, 7 by 16 and around 17,000 kV, they seemed to work the best. So that's what we currently do. We made like a medium-sized sample batch, which I've already put the reminder that I didn't need for my own purposes on sale. I think there's a few sets left, so if you're keen to get onto this, I recommend to do this quickly, because we most certainly have, you know, back memory lane, quite a few, quite a gap between them being available for everyone. But you know, we also have all the copycats now waiting to jump on the bandwagon. So you know, you might see 7 by 16 mm motors maybe popping out everywhere in the next couple of weeks, months. So just remember, where did you see it first? So back to YouTube we go. Sean asks if the 7mm DIY package that will be available from MMW is going to be called Arnold Whoop. No, I don't think so. I'm not even sure if I'm going to make a kit out of that. It's quite a lot of work to get kits happening in the background. You know, if you click buy a kit on my web shop, it actually goes to the inventory and takes all these 8, 9 different. My Echo is talking to me, and at the same time, my Indian Mac lady tells me that it's 14 o'clock already, so we should get to the end of this. I don't want to take up more of your time than I promised. Well, I'm already over it, but let's move towards the end, my friend. So, not even sure if there will be a kit available. Maybe I just put out the individual parts by themselves. Maybe if there's so much demand for it, like for the Rambo Whoop, then yeah, we might make another kit again. Yeah, maybe we get the process pack down of doing this in the back end. It's in case of anyone of you is interested in doing that as well. We use TradeGecko and composite variants to feed a Shopify store to make this all happening without being a nightmare for the buyer. So oh, actually, he had a serious question. I'm sorry, Sean. Seriously, he's curious about 7mm components available today on the market. What frames, FCs, motors, and batteries are available? Yes, that's quite easy to answer because the only frame that I know that works on 7x16mm motors and has the right size ducts for the regular whoop props is the E011 frame. There's nothing else so far. But as I said, I hope they are going to be popping out of all Chinese molding farms in the next couple of months. Let's see, you guys got to spread the word, and then all these people are thinking, oh, it's the next big thing, and they're going to, take a step and change their molds. Making molds, at least from, what I know, it's quite expensive. You got to spend a couple $1,000s to make a proper mold, and then you can start cranking out those plastic frames in the thousands, and they cost you like 3 cents, and you can sell them for $4. But yeah, you got to invest and make the mold first. So it's always a little risk. But yeah, the more we talk about it, the more they think it's going to be a thing, and they're going to do it. But I'm quite happy with the E011 frame, so I bought a whole bunch of them to play around and maybe put up some kits or just put them on sale as individual frames, so you guys don't have to play the Banggood roulette. So shoot, I didn't finish, right? So the only frame available is the E011 frame. Flight controllers. You can use all flight controllers that you can put on a regular whoop. And motors and props. So far, the only motors and props that you can use, to my knowledge, is the stock E011 motors, the 7x16. There's 17 motors that we have produced, and yeah, well, nothing else as far as I know. In terms of props, you can use everything that fits onto the regular whoop. I found that 4-bladed props work the best. Even though you gain efficiency, I've actually cut that part out of my performance comparison video because it was just not worth doing it. Maybe I should have mentioned that a little more in detail. But 2-bladed props on 7x16mm motors does not really yield much of a performance gain as we've seen that on the 6mm motors. 6mm motors have taken great advantage of reducing the blade count as in gaining efficiency, and that's why depending on your battery and power plug, you could actually gain performance by reducing the blade count. On the 7mm motors, they have enough punch to turn these 4-blader props with no problem, or without problem. And if you chop 2 blades down, efficiency goes up a little bit, but performance goes down a lot, down to a level where actually the additional weight of the motors is more penalty than your gain performance helps anything. So that's why my solution is to fly these things with 4-bladed props only. Maybe 3-bladers work okay, but yeah, I don't think so. I'm quite happy with the standard whoop props, which have been cloned pretty much exactly by E-Sheen. So the props that I fly almost exclusively are the E010 props. In terms of batteries, you can use pretty much everything that you use on regular whoops as well, with varying results, of course. A little lighter battery will get you maybe a little better performance, a little floatier feel, but shorter flight times. My choice on these is 205 milliamp high voltage packs. Yeah, in terms of flight controllers, as I said, you can put pretty much anything on there. I'm using B-brains mostly. I didn't have much luck with acro whoops. I never bought a B-core, and I don't like so much to mess around with stock Inductrix flight controllers. Cameras, you can use whatever you want to stick on there. I mostly use Gold Clash F01 and F02 cameras, which is the VM275T and I think CM275T. Of course, just again rebranded by Bolt Clash. I both buy those mainly from T-Mart. The F01 is this one here. What's on these two? So it's one unit, very compact, very light, 3.6 gram. I printed a little bracket, just can stick it onto the frame. And this one here is the F02, which is a split version. So up here you only see the camera, and the VTX is sandwiched in between here. You can see the antenna coming out the front, which makes for a little sleeker setup, so you bump into even less stuff. So I think that's covering it all. Read more. Also interested in trends you see beyond 7mm in the whoop form factor. Well, I guess I gotta think about that a little bit. So far, 7mm offers quite a bit of opportunity, I think, to improve flight performance without getting much bigger. I mean, I've been flying that thing and it flies okay, but already with the 7mm motors in the regular whoop size, you notice the additional weight makes it fly a little, how can I say, lazier. It doesn't react that quickly, so you need a little more space to go around the same corner. Previously where I was just able to hook a left, right, and go through the door, I smack against the door frame now. It takes quite a bit of relearning to fly because it behaves a little much different actually than a 7mm. Has more power, and I really like to fly it outside, but indoors I actually still prefer flying a 6x15mm whoop with 17,000 kV motors and a regular 205 pack. That works best for indoors. Outdoors, I think this is great. Outdoors, you might even, go a little larger with this one here, but I think you already need a decent sized backyard to really crank this thing around. If you have lots of obstacles in a small space, maybe just a driveway or something to fly around, this might be still the better choice. So I don't know where the trend goes. I think in terms of flying around your kind of private space, 6 and 7 millimeter is probably the sweet spot. And that's not, the motor diameter is just kind of one piece to the puzzle, but it needs to fit, and then the whole weight kind of, I think weight is the most important factor on how these things fly. It doesn't really make a difference if it's much bigger, but the weight makes the difference. The motors are heavier, the frame is heavier, and the battery you need to run those motors at a decent performance is heavier as well. I prefer to fly this thing here with 255 milliamp packs. So, Mute FPV loves the format. Great, my friend. I hope you found your way into the one of the chat rooms. If not, I hope you see it afterwards. Thanks for the feedback. D Sketcherman is asking me if why don't I make a dedicated whoop tuning for these tuning tutorial, I think he means, for these little 6 and 7 millimeter, like how to really get them dialed in. Like a lot of people in the group are having trouble tuning it the right way and thorough, but as easy as possible. Love the MMW channel. Looking forward to new content. Keep it up. Um, I'm not a tuning expert. I don't have any special skills to tune these things. The only thing that I have and that I invested into tuning them is persistence. Just, spending hours and hours of plugging it back in, changing a value, flying it again, and not being happy and plugging it back in. And after you've reached the happy point, plugging it again and changing the settings again until you realize, oh, it's not getting any better. And then finally coming up with some values that work properly. The best advice I can give you if you want to tune your quad properly, copy some settings of someone who has already dialed it in and compare that to the stock setup. Then if you don't like it, copy someone else's settings, put them on there, and then compare that. And then if you realize what of those complex settings you like the best, then pick one and start changing the values one by one. Tuning changes also over the flight controllers. What we had do in terms of tuning on, MultiWii 2.2 is completely different than what you can do in terms of tuning on, let's say, Betaflight 3. I personally use on most of these boards Betaflight 3.01 because I found everything else later seems kind of buggy, and also they kicked out the legacy flight PID controller, which I'm using on all of these. That's why I have upgraded none of my boards to anything later than 3.0.1, and I'm using the legacy flight PID controller. And I say this almost every time wrong. If you want to have my settings, you should Google the Dr. Hoop CLI dump. And you'll get to a section on my website where I have a couple of parts for the Rambo Whoop available and also a CLI dump with the settings in there. You copy all those settings, delete what you don't want, and then paste that into the Betaflight CLI command line interface, hit return, and boom, your controller is populated with the settings that I use, which are not too different from the stock settings. But notice I've changed the controller to legacy, which most people I think won't use. But I found this to fly a lot better than the new Betaflight PRE controller. I don't say this publicly often in company of Betaflight fanboys because I'm getting abused for it, but that's what it is. I actually still enjoy flying MultiWii 2.4 primarily, and I still think that flies better than Betaflight, even though it's called Beta. Yeah, so but that's just how it is. I'm kind of a fan of old traditional ways of transportation. I like myself a good old V-dub buck. We can change the timing belt while the motor is running. Yeah, that's why I also like simple brush setups that you can build in a couple of minutes. But yeah, I don't have any good tuning tips for you, at least not. Maybe I have a few more good tips for you, but not a silver bullet. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of mucking around with things and trying it out and trying to understand what a certain value means. But yeah, take a good tune from someone who has already spent some time in doing it, then you will have to spend a little less time on doing it. And yeah, as I said, flight controllers and PID controllers have progressed over the years. And what I found in the latest 3.01 Betaflight, you don't have to muck around much on the actual PIDs. What you want to change in the first place is the rates. Change the rates, the expo, the super rates, and all that stuff. I turned this all off. I put this all to linear and take all those expo, all those super rates out. On the yaw, I like to have a little bit of expo, but that's about it. All the others I get set to linear, and then you just want to figure out what the right rate for you is to make it just feel as you think it should feel, and I think that's for most people a little different. I've been flying with so many different people, and everyone has different setups. It's always kind of new experience to fly others people's quads, and sometimes, an inspiring experience. Suddenly, maybe you find something that flies a lot better than yours, and then you take over that setup. That's why I also like just to go onto the forums, see what people have come up with in terms of PIDs, just chuck that into my flight controller and see how I like this. And if I don't like it, just go randomly in there, change something, and do it all over again. So, Burton Lowe, thanks, my friend, one of the um, old members of the forum hanging out there and adopting new things quickly. Thanks for playing the same game, my friend. And Burton's asking, would you explain the engineering manufacturing improvements that make your CL716-17 motors so much better? And what's stopping these from becoming more mainstream? Oops, wrong button. Or, well, not actually the right button, but on the wrong computer. So, I don't think there's any secret to it. We make pretty much the same motor that that company used to make before I came along, which was 4 years ago. That's probably to to the to the dot the same motor that has been in the Hobbykin Pocket Quad 4 years, 5 years ago. Um, we refined the manufacturing process a little bit, just, in terms of tolerances, in terms of physical and technical tolerances, and in terms of magnet quality and coil quality and bearing quality and crimping pressure and shaft play and wire length and all these kind of things. But in general, coreless micromotors is like a old thing. It's still like the old DC motor. Boop, put some power on it, and through the turning of the commutation, the power is distributed around the coil, which is then making the thing move. And it won't last forever because all the parts wear out. That's the reason why we have developed the brushless motor. Downside of the brushless motor is it requires a brain on each of these wires and ideally sensors to sense where the motor is and drive it properly. So yeah, I don't think that we do anything extraordinary in terms of manufacturing process. We just have chosen the right coil, the right magnet, and the right size for the right purpose. And I think others will jump on the bandwagon soon. So I have arrived at the top. Big Drone Flyer 77. Thanks for hanging in there and always being one of the first watching my videos. You must be hanging on YouTube all day long. Thanks, man. Let's see. What did I miss in the chat room? New messages. Yeah, one of the neat features um, in Discord tells me where I left off. So Fleming Melster says, if it helps, I don't want to fly anything else as of last Friday. The 7mm whoop is exactly what I need in the back alleys of Chicago. If you stock frames and some slick color 7mm, I'll go crazy. Well, I'll do my best to make you all go crazy. But yeah, colors might be a while off. And frames at this stage, honestly, just chuck a couple of bucks into the Banggood roulette, and you might get one quicker. And if they're bent up, I've complained and well, let's say talked to the Banggood and the GearBest and the T-Mart support frequently over the years, and they got a lot better. In the beginning, they just, I think they just didn't have people who speak English, and you had to communicate with them over PayPal, saying, "No, I want my money back," or "I want new stuff." But currently, they actually understand. I tell them it's bent, and they don't really understand why it's a problem for me that it's bent. But when I'm telling them it is a problem, it doesn't fly properly when it's bent, they send you some more, and then they even listen. I was surprised. It actually came in a box. I asked a few times, and now I always ask that please send it in the box. Put it into the little comment section there. They actually read it, and they sometimes do it. I also put things like on there like make the box shaped like a taco, but yeah, that didn't work out yet. On one of the boxes, they actually have drawn a taco on the outside. I was very happy about that. So going crazy was the topic. Oh, Pedro is there. Welcome back, my friend. Haven't seen you in a while since the last, since the live stream on the weekend. Thanks for always waving the flag, my friend. So wait, with my new Rambo Whoop kit, should I flash the B-Brain to 301 as suggested, or use the newest version? Well, personally, as I said, I like 3.01. And I recently spoke to a developer about this because I think everything later has bugs. Well, actually, 3.01 also has bugs in the PID controller. So that's why I'm using Legacy. As some of you might know, I prefer most of my flights are in angle mode. I think a well-tuned angle mode works a lot better than acro mode on these things. At least I walk a lot less when I fly angle mode. I crash a lot less. Um, Very important though is in angle mode, you still want to get some decent inclination to go, full balls to the wall, like 90 degree and punch it. Well, not that much maybe, but you want to reach 70 degrees, 80 degrees maybe to make some extreme maneuvers, and then you want to fly at full speed at maybe 40, 50 degrees. But that is the maximum inclination angle in standard beta flight. I think it's 55 degrees. If you put it to angle mode, you cannot bank it further than 55 degrees. You can put it to horizon and then at the end of the stick get your rate mode going, but in full angle mode you can't tilt it for more than 55 degrees. There's a setting, however, which in anything up to version 3.01 in Betaflight, you can only get to over the CLI. It's called something like maximum inclination angle. You can change that. It's set to 550, I think, which refers to 55 degrees. You can set this up to 900, which should reflect in 90 degrees, but it doesn't. It only stays at 55 degrees. I think it's a bug. I didn't have yet the energy to file bug reports and things. I've just used the legacy flight controller. But then when 3.1.6 came out, they took away my beloved legacy crap. And so I spoke to one of the developers and complained about this. He said he could see that problem as well. And yeah, for him it's probably a lot easier to file a bug report. So maybe in the future we see Betaflight with a usable cutting edge PID controller. I said it right this time, and configure that. But yeah, so far I prefer the legacy, which was in regards to Wade's question saying, do you want me to flash the latest version or 3.01? I recommend if you want to fly angle mode, don't flash anything later than 3.01 until you see the angle problem is fixed. If you want to fly acro mode only, you might want to flash 3.1.7 or 8, I think. The latest major version I remember is 3.1.6, but I think there have been a few minor versions afterwards. So yeah, you might want to do this, but I also heard from a lot of people complaining about you go full throttle and flips or other crazy things. So if you want to play it safe, 3.0.1 and the Dr. Whoop CLI dump is my choice. So the B-Whoop, same as E011 frame-wise. The what? The B-Whoop? What's the B-Whoop? I don't know, B-Whoop. Post a link, please. Not fast enough. Bruce reacted with an alien to Pedro. Well, that's the right reaction to to Pedro. Yeah, see, Pilsner Popper also doesn't know the B-Whoop. Here's the B-Whoop. What's the B-Whoop? Let's check it out. 19 bucks. Bolt Clash B-Whoop BO3 altitude hold 7x16 motor EDF RC quadcopter. They always put just, shotgun approach in the title. That looks like the E011 frame. Speed control grade, 2 grade. Do they also say something about the violence of the motors? Do you remember that when they said somewhere, bigger motors for more violence in flight? Let's see if they have just the frame without all the other gobbledygook. Oh, some motors for $4 they have. They should maybe even be as fast as ours. Well, they only never give you the reference voltage, so it's pretty moot to find out. But look at that. They have orange and blue at the outside. So maybe it's not the exact same frame, but maybe the same mold. Looks very similar. Only $3. That's less than what Banggood wants for the E011 frames. Worldwide free shipping from China warehouse. So, I don't know. Looks to me the same, $1 less. See, they're already jumping on the bandwagon. Doesn't even need me to do that. B-Whoop is nice. My 4-year-old flies one. Yeah, it's I think a good one for the kids. My 7-year-old flew the E011 for longer than he has ever flown any other microquad. Has altitude hold. Yeah, if it works, that's actually a cool feature for the kids because throttle control is the most difficult thing to learn. Shameless plug for anyone wanting to super with their boop and build the flight controller from scratch. Yeah, I can certainly recommend that if you are interested in how all that stuff works. Come to the Alien Whoop family. The good people, the knowledgeable people, they all hang out here. Well, actually, it's a spin-off. How many people are in here? 179 people like this. Where does it say how many people are in the group? Invite your friends. I might not even be a member here. What is that? Is that a page or a group? It's a page. It's not a group. I can't join. I can just like it. Okay. So I think what's the official one called again? Alien AWFC fan club. So yeah, here's where everyone hangs out. Here's, but you know, there's the you gotta get across the guard. You know, there's at the door. You know, imagine this like one of the dark old clubs in the city where it's just a little door. There's no sign outside. You just gotta know that that's the right door. You knock on the door, then a little window opens, and the crazy Pedro is looking out of the door and checks your face if he wants to let you in. So far, he has let in 520 people. Where does it just said it here? Here, 520 members, two new. Uros and Jason he left in recently, but he already got cranky. So you got to be careful. Oh, thanks for the plug, by the way, Peter. He got cranky recently and complained that he doesn't know everyone by face in the group. So yeah, be careful. Make sure you make friends with Pedro if you join the AW fan club. Otherwise, him and his friend, I forgot his name, they come and break your knees. So, I think we have almost reached the end. Chasing my tail in the chat room, which, as usual, drags the end of the stream out. But I think I'm getting close. Parrot Mambo with 8.5 millimeters. Alien Whoop Mambo, yeah, that's a good plan. What does that? Do I have sort of a skateboard on top? Frame is only $5. Yeah, Parrot frames are good, but yeah, dealing with Parrot is different. So some knowledge being transpired from knowledge. Thank you. Speed control, yeah, too great there. um, so Vade is a fan. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for your support. This wouldn't be happening without you guys. Not fast enough. Talking to Fleming Mellister. So yeah, it's always good to tag people, especially if you're talking to me. Otherwise, I might just read over things like this one here because it's not directed at me. If you put at Dr. Ben in the chat room, my eyes more easily drawn to it, and the chance of me reading it is higher. Yes, I was thinking of the AW fan club. I'll probably get spanked in the back room for not getting that out quicker there. So MMAATTUU probably has been covered before, but now that the 7x16mm builds seem great outdoors, have you tried any ductless builds with these motors to push your weight lower and violence more? Yes, violence more. Yeah, of course, you can just drop the ducts and do a couple of other things. This here is probably an interesting build. It runs 7 by 16 millimeter, no, 7 by 20 millimeter motors with hubs and props. That works really well, but I'm thinking about making some 7 by 16 mil motors with 1 mil shaft, because we finally found a press that can do that, and then make this thing with even less weight. This is a quite special little thing. I might show you that as a last thing for today before we get rocking again with some tiny whoop music. So camera over here. This is I think like an 80 millimeter efficiency frame from Picnic Quads. Very light, very flexible, very tough. And it's using a B-Brain flight controller. the Pinocchio camera, I call it. It's specifically made for me by my friend Rob in the Netherlands. Check him out at microfpv.eu. I think he has just glued that extra lens onto this camera, which is a 90-degree lens, a lot narrower, a lot crisper image than the regular whoop cameras, but also a lot harder to fly because it's like you're zoomed in halfway. And then it's using the clear, indestructible, legendary hubs and props, where I happen to have still a couple of sets of. It's so close, the clearing isn't much, like a couple mil on this side of the camera, a couple mil on this side, and almost touching the USB port in the back here. And I had to even have the camera tilted up to make the prop pass underneath. Yeah, this actually flies really well already on the regular 205 milliamp batteries, but it's sitting on my desk because it needs some work, needs to have a new power plug to put some larger batteries on there. And this thing flies like crazy, a little heavier than a Whoop, but a lot more power through the larger props. But yeah, you're giving up some convenience in flying because yeah, you are down a lot quicker. Open props after you've been whooping for, well, how long are we playing this game now? I think for more than a year now. Whoops are some of my most utilized flying objects to enjoy the FPV hobby. And yeah, you get lazy with flying. I'll get through that. And even if you don't shoot the gap, most of the times you still are airborne afterwards, and even if you're tumbling, just punch it. And most of the times you get away with this, well, it's with an open prop design. Touch a wall or a tree, and it literally sucks you into the wall because you lose thrust on that corner. Touch the wall here, it goes down here, and ram into the wall. So, yeah, I really like flying the whoops, but I also enjoy the challenge of flying ductless quads once in a while. I have quite a few more lined up that I'm going to finish soon. Here's a nice one, our traditional carbon H frame with a tiltable mount for these whoop cams, so you can adjust your angle. Here's a Reggae Shark with one of these Eachine HD recording cameras, which unfortunately records quite nice, but has such laggy video feed that it's unusable for FPV. Here's a little X-frame with the 400 milliwatt setup and a big fatty lens. It works really well. Here's another setup that's not finished yet, another X-frame with an 808 camera on top of it, and I plan to manufacture a little wire harness to plug both of these cameras in so I can fly FPV and record HD, which I wanted to do with that thing, but yeah, as I said, the lag is terrible, doesn't work. So yeah, that answers the last question I hope that I've seen on the chat when I was there last. That is an aroused camera, yep. It's poking out there. Sponsored by Viagra. Red S plus frame versus X frame. Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. With the F01 VTX, what receiver antenna setup do you recommend? I'm waiting on a LaForge Diversity RX, but I'm unsure on the correct antennas. Well, personally, I'm almost exclusively, as you might have seen just on my little run through here, using the whip antennas. Especially after using Clearview receivers, I don't see the need anymore to run these fancy circular antennas. I get awesome reception throughout my whole space here with just linear antennas. Even if I get VTXs would have a circular antenna soldered to it, I just desolder, chuck it out, and put one of these antennas on here. If you buy a Bolt Clash F01 or F02 camera, they come with 2 spare of these whip antennas, and I have plenty of those. So I just, yeah, when this thing actually turns out to fly okay, I'll take off the antenna and put a whip antenna on there. On many of the builds, I literally just stick the antenna. See that here? Then in front, that's the antenna. Just glue the antenna to the frame. Works just good. I don't know, maybe you see a difference if you use a regular receiver. I heard the LaForge modules are quite good, and I think also the general receivers that are out there got better. I'm quite happy with my True D module in a pair of Fat Sharks. Actually, the only Furious FPV product that I like so far. That works quite well. I use that when I don't want to lug my full setup around, but when I can and when I fly a little bit longer, clear view is the bomb. So that brings us where we started off, and yeah, let's fully close the loop and play a little bit of whoop music. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks everyone for asking questions, for helping me answer those questions, and just hanging out and having a good time. So in that sense, let's hoop on.